The Morning Dump from Hurrdat Sports with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Before we get going, I would first like to say thank you to all of those military men and women out there and show appreciation on Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. We appreciate what you do to protect our country. We're recording at Hale Varsity Club, the food, sports, and events venue of choice for all things. And if you need help looking up to see what's being offered, that's at halevarsityclub.com. Speaking of Hale Varsity, if you want to be first to the news coming out of Lincoln, make sure you subscribe to halevarsity.com. Use my promo code AR for money off a monthly subscription. Or if you want the full year, go DB's route. Take DB and maybe save yourself some time. I don't know if you save any more money.
Promo code DB.
I think you probably get a better deal if you go with the monthly first, because I haven't done it in a while.
Doesn't matter. Just use the promo code
Is
DB.
the first month free, right?
Yeah.
I think the first month's free, and if not, you use AR and you get that money off for your first month. Test out the waters. But that's how we get our news and stories and what sparks great conversation on the show, as you know at home. So you also get deals at the restaurant too, if you are a subscriber. So lots of things happening at Hale Varsity Club.
Yeah, which these folks know me as a foodie. It's fantastic. We're gonna blow this whole thing up with Benning's Bites and have breakfast, and we're gonna eat. And I don't know if they're gonna want a 6-pack with the Benning's Bites, but if you want a 6-pack,
maybe
with
save it for
Bites,
later.
I mean, it's got to be 12 o'clock somewhere.
Well, you know what? If you're tailgating, maybe you are starting at 6.
Yeah, a lot. It's gonna. I'm pretty excited actually. We got a one-stop shop. We practically kind of live here.
That's true.
And a lot of other folks should too.
Now, former player, obviously, and I'm sure you never really found your way into the tailgate scene downtown. But
I did.
Do you know of any good tailgates around 6 o'clock where you could be drinking a 6-pack, listening to Benning Bites, then the 6-pack, and partying before?
I did a tailgate event once with Matt Verzal, and as you know, that's a recipe for disaster anytime I'm with Verz. And it was
and
like
drinking tequila, probably.
It was a former players deal. So it was like, I think it was to celebrate a reunion, maybe 2014 or 2015, whenever we played Miami here. I don't even know. So I just remember it was super cold in the morning, and it's not my jam, but it's my former teammate. So, and I love those guys. So, I just stopped out and they had this ice block, and this ice block,
like a sculpture.
It was just like a block of ice, and it was connected to it was like a ramp, and they would pour drinks down the ramp, and then you were on the bottom.
That's sweet.
So there's two things. Number one,
the
brother and me, I was like, that's not really my style. I didn't want to put my mouth anywhere near where other people were. And
you germaphobe?
Oh God,
I am low-key a germaphobe.
Oh, I'm terrible. I'm not ashamed, but I'm terrible. And so, it's competitive, and guys are cheering you. Dude, he stays on delay. So they were pouring these liquors off of these ice blocks, and turns out I did a couple, and it's probably 8:30 in the morning. And
good for
of course,
you.
I was stay clear, have no fear. So it was like vodka, and then they did a tequila, and it turned out to be kind of an all-day deal, but I was good for the rest of the day after just like that 5 minutes. I don't know how people tailgate for hours, but there are people that are very, very good at it, and they pull it off. I got a couple of buddies.
A lot of years of practice for me.
They pack for it. They know the food, the outlets, the plugs, the electrical stuff.
Tailgates are sweet.
I see it at the CWS a ton because Media Row, and I park there. It's just tailgate central, and there are some elaborate setups. I mean, so good on people that can do that. I just can't function.
Now, I'll tell you, so there was a tailgate. My family has connections at Mizzou, so we had a tailgate spot down there, and, it was one of those moments where you show up, it's 6 in the morning, right? And you start drinking until noon, whenever kickoff is. Maybe it was 11 that day or 2. You just keep drinking until kickoff. And then
Wow.
if I don't think Mizzou was very good at this time, so we would go home and nap during the game and then go back out after the game.
You were taking a nap during the game?
Yeah, that's how it was done.
I didn't realize what a jaunt Columbia is. We were going to St. Louis for a tournament a couple years ago, and
Kind of a weird college town.
It is, and it's further than I thought. Right?
From here to Columbia? Oh yeah.
It kind of caught me off guard.
Well, and then once you're there, you're in St. Louis, lickety split.
And I didn't realize the scenery changed so much. I was driving, I'm thinking, are these plateaus? Are these peaks? They're not mountains. Like, where are we? Like, there was some pretty scenes once we kind of got.
And it's an easy drive. All you do is
Missouri.
take the 2 highways, 29 to 70.
Very much so.
But it's boring.
It was.
I do it a lot.
Not eventful. And my sister's in St. Louis now, so
Yeah.
she makes the trek quite a bit. Yeah. It's full 7.5.
It depends on how fast I drive. Yeah,
So full 7.
No, not to St. Louis.
Closer to 8.
No, actually
Less?
Less. So it's normally 6.5 to get to St. Louis from here.
Really?
Yeah. Coming from Sioux City, it was 7.5.
Okay.
For me.
Okay, Leadfoot. Maybe
Yeah.
that's how I should have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find your way. I don't do any of that.
Story of my life.
I don't do any of that.
Trying to find my way.
Let's talk college basketball now. Omaha, Nebraska, the game to watch last night, and I completely struggled trying to find my way into watching that basketball game. I ended up just listening to the radio broadcast and then following along on ESPN as well to kind of get the best of both worlds there. I didn't want to have to pay the $7.99 just to watch this one basketball game. So I listened to the radio, and radio's just as nice. You paint the picture in your own head, and you have some fun with that. Foul trouble hurt Omaha early on in that game. Hung around though, only trailing by 10 at half, and an 11-0 run late in that half, too, to mention. That kept things close. They'll compete in a ton of games this year. Better than what they're projected.
Absolutely.
The only knock on them is they don't have a lot of depth, and if they get into foul trouble, that's what really gets them into dicey territory.
I think they'll have an 8-man rotation. They could probably play 9, and we'll see what happens. I think they'll end up being able to play 9. But you're right. If you're looking for some positives for the local team, they held their own on the glass, which was kind of a key thing for me going back and watching it really late last night because. Full disclosure, I watched the Creighton game first, just because I felt like I could.
You turn that off
if I had to,
in.
So it was easier for me as recording it to get to some of the key stuff just because of the score. Mm-hmm. And I figured I would need more attention for Omaha and Nebraska, but that was one of those things I just wanted to look at. Could Nebraska continue to rebound? They were coming off a 40-some rebound performance. The other night. Now, they shot it better from 3, so they didn't have as many opportunities to clean the glass as they did the other night against Maine. I think they ended up shooting 36% from 3 or something last night. But Omaha held their own on the boards. But you're right, I think foul trouble ultimately got to Nebraska. And they've got to find a way to shoot it better from behind the arc. Right? I think they finished 5 of 17 last night, and water's wet, right? It's not probably going to cut it, but only 17 three-point attempts. I don't know if that's who they're going to be, but that seems like an okay number for me for this basketball team.
And Frankie struggled to get rolling there. He did during that 11-0 run late in the first half, but he never really found his fire.
Scored the bulk of his points from the foul line.
Yeah, you look at Jaden Marshall, though, and he's the real deal. It's not just the Frankie Fiddler show anymore in Omaha, and that's rewarding to see from this group early on. They've got the weapons that could easily compete for its Summit League championship this year. And I tweeted it out last night. With them being ranked 9th out of 10th in the Summit League this year, I know when you get a fresh new team, you don't really know how to place them. But there's no shot that they're 9 out of 10. And to mention this, too, Akala Rope is still injured.
Right.
Like, he's still dealing with
they're gonna get him back pretty
a
soon.
chest injury. So once he gets him back, this is a guy that's as athletic as anybody else in college basketball.
In the Summit League, for sure. And I'll tell you, I had a chance it was a chance meeting with Marshall. Coach Crandall, one of Omaha basketball's assistant coaches, wanted some balls signed for a fundraiser that they were having in the summer. And so he met me over.
You were signing balls?
Well, he wanted me to get some signatures from Eric Crouch. And
so Eric likes to sign balls.
So short story long, he had Marshall with him. He's like, hey, DB, I'm running a little late. I got to get one of my guys coming in from Georgia. And so Marshall was sitting in the front seat, and you know, Coach Crandall's introducing us and stuff. And I asked him, I said, hey, I said, you ready to go? I said, this is it's going to be big time, right? I love your coach. I like your assistant coach too. And he looked at me, deadpan straight face. He didn't know me from Adam. He was like, yes, sir, ready to go. And you could just tell, like, I was like, ooh.
Okay.
he is ready to go, all 6'4" of him.
Not
so I
messing
think,
with you.
yeah, you just get the sense he's ultra competitive, and I think that's the way they like it. And Omaha is going to be fun to watch. And I think if you're Nebraska on the other end of that, you're still kind of feeling your way along. You did shoot it better. And I was messing with Jacob Padilla yesterday, or whatever day we did NEB preps, and I was asking him about Griesel. And I said, you know, do you think that he can be this efficient if he's got to carry the bulk of the workload in the backcourt? And we both had confidence that Sam could pull it off. And he had another efficient night last night. He didn't shoot it well from behind the arc, but 5 of 10 overall. He was 5 of 7 from the floor on 9 threes. But the thing that I like, 0 turnovers.
And, you know, I was going to add to that. It's too early to really say, like, oh, he's going to be this awesome player, or, you know, he may slow down. But getting him out of the portal was exactly what Nebraska needed. He's a facilitator, and you mentioned the 0 turnovers.
He's a winner.
He is a winner, yes, but a true scorer and a leader. Like, he's the total package for this team.
I'll be curious to see if this is the Wiltshire that Nebraska can get. He
played out of his mind.
Listen, and he's capable. Like, people forget how highly coveted he was coming out of high school before he transferred to Nebraska. And so coming out of the Big East Conference, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, you know, maybe he can play. You're starting to like his frame. His off-season physical regimen must have been pretty good. His teammates seemed to like him, and he didn't have a bad last third of the season last year. Like, he was showing you flashes of why he was so highly coveted coming out of high school. So while I don't know if he's going to go 4 of 7 behind the arc every night, would be nice. He is capable of getting buckets.
Well, and what really stood out to me is, at least in Husker teams of the past, you found one player that could score, that would always have the ball in his hands, no matter how close the game was. It was him. He's the go-to option. That's who we're going with. Well, you have that with Griesel this year, right? But the biggest hole that Nebraska needed to fill coming into the season was, who else can do that? And Griesel hopefully can stay consistent. I'm not asking for 30-point games out of Griesel, but if you can get guys like Wiltshire or other teammates on this Nebraska team to just throw up 12 to 18 points, maybe that splashy 21, 22-point game, this is a dangerous team.
Yeah.
This is a team that will work. And it's rewarding for fans to go to PBA and sit down and think, wow, like, I like him a lot. It's not just the McGowan show anymore. It's like, oh, wow, we have Griesel, we have Wiltshire, we have this guy, we have that guy. And it's a complete team.
Yeah.
It really is.
And they found a way to get to the foul line. 31 free throw attempts. Now, they got to shoot it better from behind the stripe. I think they finished at 58%. From the free throw line, 18 to 31.
Something like that.
So that they're going to have to shore up a little bit. I think Sam was 8 of 12. But they've got to get, I think they'll have to tighten that up a little bit. It's way too early to be saying, well, this is who they're going to be. But I think that's one thing that you got to take a look at if you're Coach Hoiberg.
I don't know if anybody else saw it too, but another moment that stood out to me was seeing how quickly Nebraska got off to an early lead.
Yeah, 22-9 right out of the gates, right? Something like that.
And they come out of the tunnel, and they're just like, we're ready to go. It's not like they're coming out lackluster at all. But it was another situation of where their opponent found their way to get back into the game, and some of that was turnovers, some of that was missed shots. But how about Nebraska's ability to stay in front in this game no matter what and not fumble the lead?
Yeah. No pun intended, right, with the basketball football reference. Maybe that they can build on that. I'm big about kind of establishing or at least cementing your culture and how you want to play in the non-con. Maybe this who Nebraska can be. Kind of tough, kind of gritty. Maybe it's not always going to be pretty. But they've never said that in the offseason. Like, they've talked about toughness and playing good defense and rebounding the basketball. And maybe that's part of it.
North Dakota Creighton, another game on the schedule. A big note here, you finally had a healthy Kalkbrenner. So don't tear him down too much after game one. He was dealing with flu-like symptoms. You get a healthy Kalkbrenner, and then look at how much pep in his step he had in this game.
Yeah, he is a handful. And I'm not sure. Is 10 of 11 from the field good?
That's not bad.
That's pretty good. Yeah, Kalkbrenner getting some good looks at it. You know, he made his free throws.
St. Louis boy.
No turnovers. I thought he looked fantastic, and that's really something to build on if you're Creighton, because he looked to be rounding into Ryan Kalkbrenner form.
Didn't shoot the ball well off the rip, but boy, by halftime, did Creighton figure it out. 24-3 run. This team is so fun to watch. And at one point, I saw Coach D smiling at a timeout, and from cheek to cheek, like a full smile. He knows how well put together this team is. How can you not enjoy coaching a team with this much confidence?
How about at the last television timeout, they put in their bench, and you're taking a look at that five, and you're like, that's a pretty good basketball.
They're so deep.
Team.
They're deep.
That's a pretty.
I heard Boss say, and this is a quote that I think gets thrown around once a year, but the quote is, "It's underrated to have depth in practice and overrated to have it in games." Not in this case. Not in this case. You get to really see what you have on your bench. And plus, I don't really agree with that quote, because if you get in foul trouble, like, you need depth. You need to.
I think
and depth wins you a championship.
Unless, I've seen it in Arkansas the last couple of years. Most coaches aren't playing. Self's been able to do it with 9. Most coaches aren't. 9 and 10 in a rotation is a lot.
It is, and
I think that's.
But think about it. Like I said, you get in foul trouble.
Preferably, I'd like to have a nice 8. And here's where it may not be. Overrated. Creighton can play so many different ways within the top 8. Nembhard doesn't always have to be your primary ball handler. Alexander can do it. We've seen Shireman do it. And apparently, as I'm watching this game last night, Baylor Shireman must be a ton of fun to play with, because he's so creative with the basketball and has pretty good command of that offense. He would be a fun guy to play with, because I think he's going to turn down some shots to get you some good looks. And I think that part can be contagious.
He doesn't have the prettiest stroke when watching him either. No. It may not be as appealing to the eye as some of the other guys on this team, but boy, can Shireman put the ball in the hoop.
Hey, how dangerous is Trey Alexander going to be if he continues to shoot it well?
Well, and not only that, what I thought about too is, think about every player on the floor for Creighton. When they have the ball in their hands,
they can score.
They're the best scorer on the team. Every player on the floor. They know that. And that's what makes them so difficult to guard.
It'll be interesting to see, like with Farabello and Frederick King getting heavy minutes last night.
And what they have at halftime, like 48 points in the paint.
Yeah. Well, and they ended up. Did you see what they ended up shooting at the end of the first half from 3 after the slow start?
It was 58 from the field, 50 from 3.
Yeah, they were 7 of 14 behind the stripe because they got hot just like that.
And it's like, what?
Do you think this is going to be a good shooting basketball team?
I do. I really do.
I'll be curious to see how it unfolds, right? And now they fell off a little in the second half. I think they were 5 of 13.
But like every team, you have your
that's
woes.
Still 44%, right, from the arc. It's going to be fun to watch, because I think in crunch time they can either give the ball to Kaluma and let him get downhill, or they can play it through the post and get some easier points from Kalkbrenner. Man, if they shoot it with distance, you talk about options.
Well, they found the best look every time down the floor. And it's not a knock on North Dakota. It's hard to guard this team.
Yeah.
It's hard to play basketball against this Creighton bunch. But they didn't force a shot. They found the best shot available within their shot clock time period. and that stood out to me too.
So, and, you scored 96 points. You made, I think you only made 8 free throws. I think they were only 8 of 11 from the foul line. So you had, you take those points away, that's 88. So you had 88 points. Is that right? 8 free throws made, 96. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you had 88 points on 21 assists. That's pretty good, especially when you shot the ball from distance as well as you did. So you're sharing the basketball too, which never hurts.
Looking over to Creighton women now against USD. That game taking place in Vermilion, South Dakota. Creighton with a 21-3 second quarter. That really set them apart in this one, and they ran away with it in the fourth. But how about Mogensen and how much of a phenomenal talent she is? She was everywhere on the floor last night. She can score. She can get to the rack. But most importantly, her ability to create space is going to be a problem for opposing teams this year. Once helped, she found her open teammate, and they make the opposition pay.
Yeah, so I think, I hope this isn't hyperbole. Creighton women, they seem like the type of team where on any given night there's 4, maybe 5 that could be their leading scorer. No, I'm it's reminding me a lot like the men's team where they've got some bucket getters and they have so much experience.
I wrote it down. That doesn't come often, too, when you have the men and women's team and something special going on in the program at the same time. It doesn't happen often.
Remember, it was supposed to kind of be centered around Morgan Molly, right?
Mm-hmm. And she's still there.
And far from an afterthought, but she just is really unassuming and efficient as all get out, right? It's a dangerous offensive basketball team. And I said it yesterday or the day before, I'm really looking forward to this interstate matchup next week. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Coming up next, the Heisman Trophy conversation is heating up. Some moving up the list, others moving down. We paint those possible scenarios next right here on The Morning Dump.